Good morning, Team McAuliffe. Today is Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, and we will now begin our day together with morning announcements. Please stand quietly and respectfully for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence to think about what we are going to do to make the McAuliffe School a safe and happy place for all students and staff. We do have some birthdays to celebrate today. It is Vera Lee's birthday in room 202, and then in room 117 we have Sanaa celebrating their birthday. Happy birthday to both of you. Hope that you have great days today. Looking at our National Days calendar, today is, you guessed it, National Potato Chips Day, and Snyder's barbecue chips are my favorite. I can only get these when I'm back home visiting my parents in Pennsylvania. Now that I opened the bag, I'm probably going to eat the whole thing. What's your favorite potato chip? Tell your friends. Celebrate National Potato Chip Day with me today. We also need to check in with ST Math because we didn't do that yesterday. Did you know we've hit over 600,000 puzzles? I want to celebrate the number of puzzles we did, our top puzzlers, and those in third grade who are working really, really hard. Check this out. Great job keeping Gigi moving. Keep racking up those puzzles. We're going to be at 1 million by the end of this year if you keep on going the way that you are right now. Yesterday, I announced our March Book Madness Elite 8 and those that are moving on. One of those matchups is everybody in the red brick building versus Action. We already watched everybody in the red brick building. We have not seen Action yet, so we're going to watch that right now.
Hey kids, we're the TV production and digital media class here at Lowell High School, and we make movies like the ones you see on TV. We animate clay, Legos, drawings, pictures, and sometimes we even act. Today we'll be reading you a book called Action, How Movies Began, by McAuliffe.
Movies. They take us on adventures, send us back in time to introduce us to new people and places. They allow us to peek into the life of the 16th century's queens of England, or step into the colorful excitement of 1970s disco craze. They can spark joy, sadness, and even fear. We can't imagine our world without them. When did movies start? Who invented them? The evolution of moving picture is a long journey, with many people adding a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Throughout most 1800s, photography required considerably longer exposure times. Therefore, a freeze-frame photo of motion wasn't possible. Art such as the painting was the only way people can imagine a horse running while frozen in time. The question is, did the artist get it right? Leland Stanford, a wealthy horse owner and once governor of California, didn't think so. Even though by the 1870s, camera exposure times had shortened, the question of what a horse running gait looked like had not been answered. Stanford asked Edward Muybridge, who was a well-known nature photographer, to help him solve the mystery. How would a man who photographed stationary scenes such as this valley document something moving? Muybridge came out with this clever solution. Muybridge set up a row of cameras with threads that stretched across a track. When the horse broke the threads, snap, 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 the cameras recorded a series of photos. This is one example. Does the horse look the same as this one in the painting? Muybridge's photographs were inspired by the motion experiments of a French scientist named Etienne Jules Méry. The two men met while Muybridge was touring Paris in 1881. Méry wished to record birds in flight, but Muybridge's technique didn't work well with birds. Therefore, in 1882, Mary invented a handheld camera to better record motion. The photographer who pulled the triggers in quick succession to get results. These are a few of Mary's photographic studies. Thomas Edison, the famous inventor, met with both Muybridge and Mary. Edison knew he could make better inventions than theirs. One of Edison's advantages was that he had a team of employees working for him. He assigned the project to the inventor and the photographer, William Kennedy Dixon. After much work, Dixon came up with something called a kintograph, used to record motion, and a kintoscope, used to play back this motion. The motion was recorded on something called celluloid film. That's why movies are sometimes called films today. By 1893, the inventions were completed. Below is what the inside of the kintoscope looked like. You can visit a kintoscope in a museum today. The one shown here is in West Orange, New Jersey, at Thomas Edison National Historic Park. Throughout most of the 1800s, photography required considerably longer exposure times. Therefore, a freeze-frame photo of motion was impossible. Art such as the painting was the only way people can imagine a horse running, while frozen in time. The question is, did the artist get it right? Leland Stanford, a wealthy horse owner and once governor of California, didn't think so. Even though by the 1870s, camera exposure times had shortened, the question of what a horse running great looked like had not been answered. Stanford asked Edward Muybridge, who was a well-known nature photographer, to help him solve the mystery. How would a man who photographed stationary scenes such as this valley document something moving? Muybridge came up with a clever solution.
The kinetograph was quite heavy, so it couldn't be transported outside. Therefore, Edison's team erected a building in which to use the new invention. When the men turned the crank, the roof opened. When they pushed the building around the circular track, the roof and sun aligned, allowing sunlight to pour in and light up their film's objects. Inside the Black Maria, Edison and his team created something magical. They created motion pictures. 1 year later, the first kinetoscope parlors opened. Inside these parlors, curious viewers peered into wooden boxes and on slices of animated film for the first time. Brothers Auguste and Louis Lumiere, whose family owned a large photography supply company in France, set out to invent a cheaper and lighter film camera. The Lumieres thought watching films should be a group experience, so in addition to the camera, they invented a projector to share their films with the world. Their first public screening was in 1895. We stared flabbergasted at this sight, stupefied and surprised beyond all expression, said a magician in the audience by the name of Georges Méliès. At the end of the show, there was complete chaos. Everyone wondered how such a result was obtained. Here were some of the films shown that year. They are called the French word actualities. They are something real. A slice of life cinema was born. Back in the United States, Edison Manufacturing Company created one of the first hand-tinted films in 1895. It plays with movement and color. The Lumiere brothers tried this technique for themselves. After viewing the Lumiere brothers' films, Georges Méliès couldn't resist buying his own film camera. It wasn't long before the magician figured out how to do magic tricks using the camera. In this 2-minute film, he plays every role himself. What magic. Méliès' most famous film is called A Trip to the Moon. By stopping the camera, placing a rocket ship in the moon's eye, then restarting the recording, pop, a rocket ship appears to land with a splat. Méliès created a color version using the hand painting technique that Edison and the Lumieres utilized.
The year was 1913. "We need some gags here," said the director to young English-born Charlie Chaplin. "Put on some comedy makeup, anything will do," Chaplin said of one of his costumes. "I wanted everything a contradiction. The pants baggy, the coat tight, the hat small, and shoes large. And just like that, one of the most memorable characters of the silent era was born." Another actor named Buster Keaton was called a stone-faced comedian. Whatever happened around him, his expression never changed. "The more seriously I took my work," he once said, "the better I got." Keaton's acrobatic skills and risk-taking made for jaw-dropping viewings, even to this day. There were no special effects in the 1920s. This scene, Keaton did the stunt himself. No wires attached. He missed the building and fell into a net off screen, badly bruising himself in the process. Even today, some actors do their own stunts. Although Tom Cruise was attached to a wire, he missed a building and broke his ankle. Cruise and Keaton both illustrate daring qualities that make them riveting to watch. Here you can see how one iconic movie scene inspired others. In this scene, comedian Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle sticks forks into two dinner rolls and makes them dance. Chaplin does the same thing. Watch Johnny Depp do his own excellent rendition. In the United States, during what was called the Roaring Twenties, prejudice was quite apparent. People of color were rarely included in mainstream movies. An African-American actress by the name of Josephine Baker decided she'd had enough. She packed up her things and moved to France. "I felt liberated in Paris," she said. There she became a star. Actresses like Baker, with her beauty, humor, and large stage presence, paved the way for stars of today. In 2018, a Marvel movie titled Black Panther, with a majority black cast, was a smash hit. This is something Baker could have only dreamed of.
In 1925, the year that Josephine Baker moved to Paris, The Phantom of the Opera was released. During this time period, it was popular to use dyes to color parts of the films. The Phantom of the Opera effectively uses colors to create moody atmospheres using pinks, yellows, greens, and blues. Americans weren't the only ones creating innovative films. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is thought to be the first full-length German horror film released in 1920. It plays with light and shadow and lines. The world is angular, topsy-turvy, and jarring. The makeup is heavy and spooky. Shadows were hand-painted for dramatic effect. In this scene, all you can see is a person's shadow. How does it make you feel? Nosferatu, also created in Germany, is an early adaptation of the book Dracula. You can see how the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was an inspiration. Nosferatu illustrates stop-motion techniques used by earlier filmmakers, such as George Méliès, for scenes in which doors open and close on their own. Haunting. Just the shadow of the vampire causes shivers. One of the earliest science fiction films that is still appreciated to this day is Metropolis. This futuristic German film remains relevant. In it, society's wealthy travel in flying vehicles and enjoy lavish garden parties while the low-paid workers suffer in a steam-filled underworld containing giant machines that must stay running 24/7. Some film critics loved it, others hated it. Regardless of the criticism, Metropolis's innovative sets and costumes are a feast for the eyes. The robot on the left is named C-3PO. Does he look familiar? This painting is inspired by Metropolis, 1927. This painting is similarly inspired by Blade Runner, 1982. Do you see the similarity?
1 year after Metropolis was released, an all-talking movie called Lights of New York hit theaters. No one had watched a movie like this before. Imagine hearing your favorite actor speak for the first time. Imagine hearing city sounds for the first time, traffic, a crowd of people, the dings of a trolley car. What would you think? The sound in Lights of New York wasn't perfect, but people wanted more. Movie lovers began using the word talkies, short for talking movies, as in, I'm going to a talkie movie today. One would think that all movies after Lights of New York would have sound, but that isn't so. Charlie Chaplin's last silent film opened in 1936, 8 years after the first all-talking film had been released. Almost a century later, the movie Lion, which takes place in India, was released. In it, you hear a train horn, hordes of people chattering and rushing this way. Eerie chimes and unintelligible announcements echoing through a concrete space. The sounds help illustrate the confusion and fear that Saru, a young boy who is lost and wants to go home, is feeling. One movie inspires another, which inspires another. Next time you watch a movie, Think of all the people who tried something new and pushed the boundaries of what is possible. Movies will continue to inspire us for generations to come, and we have all the inventors, actors, writers, and directors to thank. The end.
Okay, so there you have it. There's that matchup. You'll be choosing on Thursday which one you like better, action or everybody in the red brick building. Can't wait to see which one moves on to the Final Four. It's also Tuesday, and that means we have Tuesday trivia with Mrs. Sargent. Here's her question.
Good morning, boys and girls. Tuesday trivia here with Mrs. Sargent. Many times after a rainstorm, we see a beautiful rainbow. Boys and girls, could you tell me how many colors there are in the rainbow? Once again, how many colors are in the rainbow? Please give your answer to your teacher. And everyone, have a great day.
Okay, how many colors are in that rainbow? Students, get the answers into your teachers. Teachers, give me the names of the students who get it right. Tomorrow, we'll find out who the winner is for this week's Tuesday trivia. Students, don't forget to tell your parents that there's a PTO meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock in the cafeteria. Hopefully they'll come out, help us plan the Sweetheart Dance that's coming up next week, Friday. I think that's all of our announcements for today. Remember, McAuliffe students are stars. That means we strive to do our best. We take responsibility. We're always positive and kind, and we respect ourselves and others. If everybody remembers to be a star today, then we'll have a terrific Tuesday. Have a great day, McAuliffe School.